And what do we do with it? Slam it!
Welcome in to Around the Felt, our week 2 predictions. Reagan, how you feeling, my friends? It's a great day to talk some ball.
Dude, I'm feeling great. Happy to be here. Week 1 wasn't the best for fantasy, but we had some good call outs, so that was awesome. And we're just totally excited to break down these matchups with you and get some more stuff right.
Yeah, and just like Vegas, we took our notes week 1, and we're going to do much better on our spread picks this week. That's what I'm anticipating. Me in particular, I was awful last week, so really looking forward to diving into these games and hopefully doing better this week. But we got some news, not a lot since we recorded yesterday, Reagan, but some Dolphins news with the game tomorrow night. Raheem Mostert's out with the chest injury, and Devon Achane is a game-time decision with the ankle. He did practice today. No red medical shirt on. Apparently, he looked good with his cuts, but still a game-time decision for a guy that has had durability concerns in the past. Not ideal for Miami. It could be the Jeff Wilson show. Maybe some Jalen Wright action as well.
Yeah, I went out and scooped Jeff Wilson up in pretty much all my leagues that he was available.
Oh, I saw. You're starting him against me.
Yeah, I do have him
playing
right
each
now.
other in the big league this week. I got Reagan on deck.
Yeah. Yep. I losing Puka, and it sounds like McCaffrey's out. You get a little desperate at times. But yeah, I'm planning on starting Jeff Wilson. I mean, Mostert's already ruled out, and I think obviously if Achane's ruled out, it's even better. But I think it's going to be a 50-50 timeshare, and I think Wright will be involved in some sense. But if I can get Jeff Wilson, who gets those Mostert goal line touches on a high-powered offense, I'll take it. I mean, he's projected like 6 right now in half-point PPR leagues and full point, around there. So I don't go off of projections. I'm probably going to start him regardless of what his projections say. I do expect him to get at least double-digit touches between catches and rushes tomorrow. And if he falls in once, I mean, that's a 10-point week right there in my books, which in my position, I'm desperate for.
That you are, my friend. T. Higgins did not practice today, not looking good after Cincinnati's offense really struggled last week against New England. Now they got the Chiefs coming up. Man, if they don't have T. Higgins, it's going to be really tough for their chances against the defending champs, Reagan.
Yeah. I mean, obviously their offense was very stagnant last week. I mean, Jamar Chase didn't do a ton. Christian Gonzalez kind of locked him down. And then between all the other weapons, I mean, nobody really separated themselves from the pack. I mean, I thought we were going to see more of Jermaine Burton out of Alabama getting involved, but he didn't do anything. He was a non-factor. I was excited for him because I drafted him in a lot of underdog leagues. And I'm like, hey, no T. Higgins. Maybe he can kind of show out and get involved, but not a lot of involvement. But if T. Higgins doesn't play, I hope they at least try to involve him this week. He looked solid in the preseason.
Yeah, Andre really got more of the run, which was interesting in my opinion, because a lot of people were gassing up Jermaine Burton in the preseason. But yeah, I don't know, man. Cincinnati needs T. Higgins back out there. And finally, in lesser injury news, Audric Estime, the rookie running back for the Denver Broncos, was placed on IR. This is after last week where he did get involved a little bit. 3 backs were getting touches. Jaleel McLaughlin led the backfield, but with no more Estime, I'd have to imagine Javonte Williams' role will grow this week.
Yeah, I'd say both guys. I mean, in my opinion, McLaughlin's slowly got to own just because we saw Bo Nix. He likes to throw the ball short, so that's good for McLaughlin being the receiving back. But also, this is a team that we fully expect to be trailing the whole entire time. So I think McLaughlin, if you can go get him in some leagues, he's worth throwing a dart throw out for a flex option. I'd definitely try to acquire him on the cheap, especially in some dynasty leagues if you can.
There we go. That wraps up the news. Drock is back for today's pod.
Yes, sir.
Drock, what do we got for questions, brother?
What's up, gentlemen? I'm totally prepared. I'm so excited to start asking you guys these questions that I really just need to take a moment and say, I miss you guys so much. Just give me a second.
Drock, you got one job.
Yeah, I have one
Not
job,
ready.
and I fucked that one up. So, gentlemen, I am so sorry. Let's break the ice here. I don't have the questions up. And I'm
just
blushing
sitting there,
because
just
I'm
chilling,
going to get yelled
just
at by my bosses later. Somebody out there, please help me. All right, let's hop to these responses. First question, we're going with Austie.
Austie.
Which player is going to have the biggest performance week 2?
Oh, I called this right last week. Can I do it again? Can you
do it again, Reagan?
I'm going to go with my boy Derrick Henry.
It's a good one.
I'm calling it now. He's going for over 100 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. He's going to lead all players in fantasy points this week. I don't care about John Harbaugh coming out and saying we didn't bring this guy in to be a 30-touch guy. Doesn't matter. That's coach speak. They always say that. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he gets over 20 touches this week. I think they're going to run the ball down the Raiders' throats, and I think 3 touchdowns is definitely within reach as well.
It's a good pick, Reagan. I'm going to go with a New York Jets in Breece Hall. Yes, Breece Hall. I think, you look at last week's game against San Francisco. That's a legitimate front. Tennessee doesn't scare me nearly as much up front, and Rodgers knocked off some of that rust against a legitimate title contender. I think Tennessee is going to be deflated after that loss to Chicago. I don't believe in their defense, even though they made the rookie Caleb Williams look bad. Rodgers is going to do a much better job. The offense is going to move the ball, but ultimately Breece Hall on the ground, I think he goes for over 150 total yards and 2 touchdowns.
Wow. I love it. I'm not going to complain with that one.
Reagan, I love that you said Derrick Henry because Derrick Henry is in Big Tong's touchdown score parlay this week.
Cool. That'll make me root for it even more.
As is Breece Hall, obviously.
Cool.
All right, Drock, you got another question for us? You're just going to sit there and look at us.
I was kind of waiting for you guys to continue. All right. Which team is going to have the biggest showing this week?
All right. This might shock some people. I have the Bears upsetting the Houston Texans on Sunday Night Football. Wow. I really, really believe in the Chicago defense. I think they're going to contain Stroud. I think Stroud's actually going to struggle. And I think Caleb Williams reminds everyone why he was the number 1 overall pick. And I feel like everyone's going to be hammering Houston -6. Although Chicago won last week, it was because of their defense and their special teams. And everyone's going to be down in this offense and this passing attack. I think Caleb Williams plays really well in this game, throws for over 250, and Chicago upsets Houston on the road.
I'm going with the Panthers. They're going to have the biggest
Carolina
biggest shocker of the week. I'm calling it now. I mean, kind of similar to your sentiment where I genuinely think like everyone's going to be betting against them. You're like, 6 points for a team that just got blown out, but they're coming home. I mean, the Chargers defense is very susceptible to the run. So I can see Miles Sanders and Hubbard actually getting more than like 5-6 carries each this week. I think it's going to take a lot off of Bryce Young if they can establish the run early. And I think we saw Herbert struggle a lot last week with the lack of talent around him. I mean, the weapons just really aren't there. I mean, the run game was great. So, and it helps that Derek Brown's out, but I think this is going to be a low scoring game, but I think the Panthers are actually going to get the upset victory at home.
I also have Carolina covering, but I don't think they win the game.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be close. I think that's a lot of points to give the Chargers on the road.
What game this week is going to be the best to watch?
Best game to watch. I think Buffalo Miami's right up there. It's not my top one, but it's right up there. The way Buffalo's defense looked last week against Arizona, it should be a really fun game. It should be high scoring. I think a lot of touchdown scores in this one from some star players. Man, but the number 1 game.
Who's he talking to right now?
It's Cincinnati. I don't know what day. It's probably counting on his fingers. I think it's Cincinnati, Kansas City is the most fun game because Joe Burrow has shown that he plays really well against Kansas City, and everyone's doubting Cincinnati right now. And if they come in and they beat Kansas City on the road, then they just remind everyone, okay, it's the NFL. Doesn't matter what happened last week. It's a new week. You lose arguably the worst team in football last week, and now you go beat the defending champs. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. 4:30 slate should be a fun one.
Dave, who are you just risen up there?
Nothing.
The whole entire time he's talking, you're just like, you had yourself muted, anything. But we just saw you talking and giggling.
I was trying to stay focused, and you guys are distracting me.
I wasn't doing anything. I'm locked the fucking on this podcast.
Yeah, one of you fans out there, please get the lip reading on that one going. So that I like that. I'm
locked in.
I'm all fucked up. You got me all distracted. But I like the Bills Dolphins a lot. I think it'll be very telling about like kind of where both of these teams are at. I mean, both of them had come back from behind victories last week, and obviously it's a big division matchup. 2 teams that are very familiar with each other, but it'll be interesting to see, like, is Miami kind of getting to that next level, or is Buffalo still going to dominate this division?
All right, let's hop to Garrett. Thanks, Austin.
Thank you, Austin.
Any concern with Joe Burrow Looks like he still might be struggling with a wrist injury on his throwing arm.
So he came out today in the press conference and people were asking about the water bottle because that's the video people are talking about, how he picked it up weird. And bro's like, well, I don't know what people are talking about. Did I pick the bottle up weird? I was just drinking water. So there's really nothing wrong. That's what he says. So I'm going to believe Joe Burrow. No concern, because we've seen them struggle out the gate before. Keep saying that over and over again. It happens every year, but it's a fact with Jamar Chase and that whole thing and T. Higgins out. I'm not concerned yet. It's going to take till week 5 or 6 for me to get concerned about this Bengals team and Joe Burrow, unless they start winless. Then we have a problem.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest reason for not being concerned is it just happens every year that they're slow out of the gate. So it's too early to panic. I mean, New England's got a good defense, and I actually do think they'll get it done this week. I think that's one of the biggest trap games of the week.
All right. Is it panic time for the Bears if Caleb looks bad in prime time?
You don't panic with a rookie quarterback this early, man. You just don't. He's a rookie, man. I know he got touted as the best prospect since Andrew Luck, but it's fine. I mean, he'll be all right.
Yeah, no, it's that. I mean, I'd be a little if he has like another dud where he can't like it's all on the defense and the offense looks terrible. Yeah, I'd be panicked a little bit. But I think he'll show more. I think a lot of the nerves will be gone. But ideally, I think if he throws a touchdown or two, it'll be nice. But if 0 touchdowns again, maybe turns the ball over, low passing yards, yeah, maybe you want to panic a little bit and be like, hey, like what's going on? He has the weapons. Like this ain't looking good. But it sounds like Odunze might not play either and may miss some time.
It looks like Odunze is going to be out.
So that'll be interesting to see what Keenan and DJ Moore can do, and
Besides Devontae, which wide receiver should the Jets look to trade for by the deadline?
I don't honestly know if we necessarily need to. I mean, I don't think our wide receiver core was the issue against the 49ers. I just think it was the fact that we couldn't really establish the run, and then we couldn't stop the run on the defensive side of the ball. Like when I think we need to get rid of Hackett. Like his play calling is terrible, but Lazard definitely looked like he's kind of back to what we saw in the Green Bay days. I mean, Garrett Wilson's obviously a stud, and Mike Williams was on a pitch count. We drafted Malachi Corley, so I don't necessarily know if we have to make a move. I mean, if we can get Devontae, that's great, but I don't know if we need to go out there and trade for anyone unless they're like that top tier caliber.
Yeah, I also like you're trying to think of receivers that could get moved off the top of your head. Like, who's the biggest name outside of Devontae that you could think of, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it would have to be on a crappy team.
Maybe Cortland Sutton, but I don't think that
Lockett.
happens.
I could see Lockett in Seattle.
Yeah, but he's like I don't know. He just seems like a dude that's going to retire a Seahawk. He just seems like one of those guys.
We just got to look at teams that we think are going to be sellers at the deadline. I mean, like that aren't going to be competing. I mean,
Arizona's not moving anybody.
I mean, maybe Amari Cooper. If the Browns aren't in a good spot, I could see them moving away from him and just trying to get some picks back and salvage what they can at this point. And just who else? I mean.
Yeah, but they're so all in with that Watson deal that they kind of like can't even do that.
Yeah, I mean maybe McLaurin with the Washington, but I doubt it. I mean, you
don't want to hurt the growth. Quarterback. Yeah,
you don't want to hurt the growth. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely some interesting names out there, and it'll be interesting to see.
All right, dynasty and fantasy question: is Zeke startable going forward as a flex?
100%. I mean, he's going to be getting I mean, I know it was 50-50, but he was way more efficient than Dowdle. I mean, this is going to be a high-powered offense, so Zeke, like what I look for in a flex is a guy that can at least get 1 touchdown a week, and anything else yardage-wise is a bonus. So he's a guy I think will be averaging either high 8 to 9 points or low double digits. So yeah, he's 100% flexible in my book. He's a weapon that I have been trying to get in a lot of leagues, and I think he's a guy that'll be in the double-digit touchdown figure at the end of the year. He'll have a similar season that kind of what Gus Edwards did last year, in my opinion.
Yeah, I had to roll with Gus for a little bit last year, but you're just banking on the touchdowns. It's not an ideal spot to be in, but if you have injuries and you got bye weeks when we get to that point of the season, then yeah, Zeke's certainly startable at the flex. If he's at your RB2 spot, all right, then we have a problem. You got to make some moves, get a running back, because I wouldn't love for him to be my RB2. But yeah, at flex, it's fine. It's fine. He's your RB2?
Well, for this week, but that's like
it's 1 week though.
No, but I have Kyron, and I think it's because I have Kyron at my flex, so technically he's in my RB2 spot right now.
Yeah, that's all the questions we got today, gentlemen.
All right.
All
Light on the
right.
questions, but that's the risk we take going back-to-back pods.
There we go. All right, let's get into this Thursday night football game, Reagan, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
The Buffalo Bills at the Miami Dolphins. Miami's a 2.5-point favorite at home. The over-under 48.5. I actually like the over in that one.
Really?
Should be a shootout here. Reagan, which
Yeah.
side you taking in this one?
I am taking the Dolphins. I think they're going to cover here. I think it's going to be a big statement win. I mean, Buffalo really struggled a lot to stop the Cardinals early on. They finally locked in. The run defense didn't look bad at all, but for an Arizona team that really we didn't have a lot of hopes for on an NFL level, more so in the fantasy level. I mean, they really made that game very close, as did Miami with Jacksonville. But I would say Jacksonville's a way better team than the Cardinals at this point. And for me, if it was in Buffalo, I'd roll with Buffalo. But to me, I just think the home field advantage is so significant for both of these teams. Like Miami plays so much better in the warm, and Buffalo obviously plays when you get those games in the cold in Buffalo. It's such an advantage. So, but yeah, and even with Mostert not playing, and even if A-Chain's ruled out, I still like it a lot. I mean, the way Mike McDaniel schemes it up, I think he'll have a good game plan, even if he doesn't have his top 2 running back options. Or we already know Mostert's out at the time of this recording.
Yeah, you're so off on this one, dude. Buffalo's going to win this game. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Buffalo because Diggs is gone, but Josh Allen is still that dude, and Tua Tagovailoa is still 1-6 in 7 career games against Buffalo. Mike McDaniel really struggles against Buffalo. They've lost 11 of the last 12. So the Bills roll here. And after this week, Josh Allen will be the MVP frontrunner. He's going to be the talk of sports radio next week. All the sports talk shows, Good Morning Football, everything. Josh Allen, the MVP frontrunner. He doesn't need a number 1 wide receiver.
No, he won't. No,
He's still that
not.
dude. He's
No,
still
he
that
will
dude.
not.
And
I mean, maybe
and
he'll be the talk after a bad game, and it's just Josh Allen. It's clear. Can he be Superman after he throws 3 picks and can't get it done against the Dolphins?
He is. He might throw a pick or 2. He might have 2 interceptions this game. Jalen Ramsey might pick him off, but the Bills are still going to win this game. He's still going to have a huge drive in the end of the fourth quarter to get this win, baby. I love Josh Allen to score yet again after last week, a Big Tongue's touchdown score parlay. And I also love Tyreek Hill to score yet again at home in this one. I think that's a good little 2-legger parlay. Run it back this week. But yeah, I think the Bills get it done on the road, dude. And everyone's doubting them and just how they roll. And I did have the Bills missing the playoffs. But in this instance, they start off hot. Josh Allen, MVP frontrunner, 2-0, baby.
Oh, if you're so confident, why don't we make a bet on it?
Let's fucking do it, baby. What do you want to do?
Oh, tough guy.
Let's do it. What do you want? I'm very confident, Josh Allen.
We were floating around the idea of going back to the TikTok trend. I mean, that kind of resonated.
Hey, let's roll with it. I love watching you dance.
Yeah, okay. I don't know if you want to call that dancing last year, but I'm down to double down. If I got to shake that cake, I'll do it. But I'm expecting to see you do it. So, what do you want to do? 3 days worth? Maybe 5 was a little overkill last year.
Yeah,
I mean,
three
my hips
works
starting
for me.
to get a little sore. I'm not flexible like that. So
yeah, I think
by the end of it, I was really feeling it. Huh?
People's eyes were bleeding out watching you do it 5 days in a row last year. So we'll do 3. You only have to do 3 this year, Reagan. How about that?
I'll do it. I mean, you'll do it, but I'll agree to doing 3. It's just gonna suck when I'm right, and I'm like, damn, this motherfucker's getting off easy this time.
I think I'd rather do mayo and coffee than do 3 TikTok dances. Like, actually, not probably. I 100% would rather drink mayo and coffee than do 3 TikTok dances.
Yeah. Well, they aren't all equal. They are not.
They are not all equal. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about my New York Giants on the road at the Washington Commanders. The Commanders are a 1.5 favorites. The over-under 44.5. Reagan, I know you're not taking my Giants. Tell me why you're going with Washington.
How do you know that?
Because you never take the Giants.
I am going with the Commanders here. Actually, I would have gone with the Giants if it was home. It's the biggest factor was me take the team that's at home. But also, I really do like the way Jaden Daniels played. I think Jones will have a good week though. I'm not gonna shit on him here. I just think the way he played was very encouraging. I think he has another big fantasy game. So if you have him, I mean, I don't know how you wouldn't start him after last week, but if you were debating it this week, start him. He's going to go off again. He's going to get a ton of rushing yards. I think it really comes down to the end of the game. Like, it might not be. No, because normally the Washington Giant games are kind of like more low scoring. I do think this one will become a shootout because I really don't like the way the Giants defense played last week, and I certainly don't like the way Washington's defense played last week. But crazy enough, after one game of Jaden Daniels, I have more confidence in him than I do Daniel Jones, and that's honestly because of the stat that just came out. I mean, the dude has more pick sixes and touchdown passes since he signed his contract, so it's kind of hard to have confidence in him right now. But I do think this could be Neighbors' first big breakout game. I do think he could go for over 100 yards here. I really do.
That a boy. I'm going to back that up in just a moment, Reagan. Of course, I'm going with my New York Giants. The Giants, yeah, they've been really bad in recent memory, but the one team that they've just beaten over and over again is the Commanders. So I anticipate they do it again on the road here. Daniel Jones has had some of his best games against the Commanders, and Kayvon Thibodeau dominates against the Commanders. The weakness of this team is the offensive tackles, and it is the secondary. So for that reason, I think Thibodeau has a sack. I think Brian Burns has his first sack. I think Jaden Daniels does do a lot of damage on the ground using his legs, but it won't be enough to get the job done here. And St. Juste in the slot for the Commanders has allowed the most yards in the league since the start of last season. So that, and Neighbors lined up in the slot. Wandell's mostly the slot guy, but Neighbors was there like 30%-ish last week. So I agree with you. I think Neighbors has a big game here, and Malik Neighbors is actually in Big Tong's touchdown score parlay for week 2. And that's going to be the one that juices it up, because a lot of people will be doubting this Giants offense after last week, which absolutely understand. But Brian Daboll is pissed. Daniel Jones is pissed. Malik Neighbors is pissed. This Commanders defense is so gettable. Bottom 3 in the league. Malik Neighbors has a big game. Giants get it done. 24-20. 24-20.
That's scary. You don't want to piss off Daniel Jones. You don't want to piss off Daniel Jones. He may just go out and throw one touchdown if you get him too angry. He might just do it. I mean,
yeah, and it's going to be to Malik Neighbors.
I don't know. I mean, this is just an ugly game.
You know what? He might not throw a touchdown. It might be Malik Neighbors rushing touchdown for all we know.
Hey, man, that still gets it done. So who gives a shit?
Yes, it does.
But yeah.
All right, the Saints at the Cowboys. Cowboys a 6.5-point favorite. The over-under 46.5. Obviously, the Saints looked really good last week, but it was Carolina, so how much weight we put in that, I don't know. Dallas also looked legit on the road at Cleveland, a very tough place to play against that Cleveland defense. But, Dallas got it done, and they got it done by a decent margin. So, Reagan, are you going back to the well with the Cowboys here?
Yeah, I am. I mean, this team is incredible at home. They beat up on bad teams, and I still believe the Saints are not a good team. I mean, I was super high on them last year. They burnt me real good. They burnt me to a crisp. It hurts. I still got them third-degree burns from them last year. So, no, I will not be rocking with them. I mean, hey, if they go up and light them up, good, because then I could be like, hey, at least I was right on Derek Carr that it was the injuries, and this guy still got something left in the tank. But no, it's hard. Until I see it, I can't believe in this Saints team, and Dallas historically just dominates the teams they're supposed to. So I really do think this is going to be a blowout, and typically Dallas is very good to start the year as well. They're one of the best coached teams early on, it seems like, and then they kind of just deteriorate, and then come playoff time, they just fall apart. But I think Mike McCarthy is going to have them all hyped up, and I think they kind of like this underdog mentality that a lot of people are giving them. Like, they loved being underdogs against Cleveland last week. That line was disrespectful, and everyone coming into the season from the offseason, Dallas's big storyline was, the Eagles are going to win the division. This team's going to take a major step back. So I think they got a chip on their shoulder, and I like the line of 6.5. I think they win by double digits easily here.
I have to agree with you with everything you said. I think Dallas, at home last year, they were just an absolute juggernaut. They blew everyone out. I think they do a similar thing here to the Saints. The Saints are just a mid team, in my opinion. Their ceiling is maybe making the playoffs, maybe winning the division with the way Atlanta looked last week, but Dallas just a different caliber of team, especially after last week. I was just really impressed with how they looked out the gate, especially with all the contract shit going on with Dak throughout the offseason and CeeDee Lamb, and they just put it behind them right away when the ball kicked off and dominated. So I see a similar thing happening here, and I think CeeDee Lamb has a monster game. He goes for over 100 in this one, and Dallas rolls 34-13.
Wow. Big blowout.
Tampa Bay at Detroit. The Lions a 7.5-point favorite at home. The over-under 51.5. Detroit, they got it done last week against the Rams. It wasn't pretty against a lot of backups on that offensive line for the Rams. No Puka Nacua, but, Stafford revenge games always in play there. Some extra emotions. Now it's Baker Mayfield rolling in after he looked really good last week against the Commanders. Can Baker keep it rolling, Reagan, and beat the Lions on the road?
No, he can't. This is the Bucs coming back to reality this week. I really think it's going to be a big blowout here for the Lions. I think they're going to I don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball down their throat because that's where the Bucs are very good. But I think that Goff's going to go for over 300 yards. This is a nice bounce back game for St. Brown here. I feel very confident in him going over 100 yards this week. So for those of you fantasy managers that are panicking, don't panic. He'll end up putting up 20-plus points this week in fantasy, and you'll get that first-round pick value that you expected. Montgomery and Gibbs, I think they might be a little more touchdown dependent, especially Montgomery this week. I don't know how many yards he'll get, but if he falls in twice, and he'll kind of save the week. But I'm kind of tempering expectations just because Tampa Bay really does have a good run defense, and they want you to beat them passing the ball. But I think Baker's going to struggle here. I mean, the Lions secondary is much improved, and I think the Lions know they're going to have to adjust it. And to what happened last week where they were kind of just funneling it to Cooper Kupp, putting him in motion. Bucs don't really run that style of offense, so it'll be interesting. It really will.
Yeah, I got the Lions winning this game, but I do have Tampa Bay covering. You know, you mentioned it. Tampa Bay is a stronger run defense than what the Rams have up front right now with those young Bucs. So I don't really think it matters, though, because Detroit could beat you in so many different ways. And I 100% agree with you. Amon-Ra's going for over 100 here. I think he has 10-plus catches. I think he really dominates this game, and Jared Goff lights up Tampa Bay through the air. But Baker just looked so good last week with Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin, after kind of a down year last year, also looked really good. So that was really encouraging to see. If you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, which I know a lot of you guys are probably listening and hate us now, and it's fine. It's fine. We get it.
Yeah, but we had a guy commenting today on the recap post.
I know. Well, he was it? Wait, who? Hold on. Before we go back, someone was talking about the Vikings today in one of our posts. And did he actually say, did I read that wrong? Did he say Jalen Nailor was the number one wide receiver?
Yeah, he did. We were kind of going back and forth. I don't know if he was fucking with me, but the guy was saying,
we have three. He's like, we have the best wide receiver core in the league with Jefferson, Addison, and Nailor. And I'm like, dude, I'm a Sparty fan. My brother fucking went there. I've been there several times. I've been to games. I like Jalen Nailor. I've seen him play in the Peach Bowl. He is. You can't include him in a top wide receiver group in the league conversation right now. Yeah, that is ridiculous.
I mean, I did pick him up in sleeper because I'm like, if this motherfucker's right, I don't want to be burned by it. So I picked him up in my sleeper league. But yeah, I was like, but it was also weird because we were going back and forth, but he was explaining, he goes like, and he was like throwing in Jones and Hawkinson, and then he tried to like bring in the offensive line. And I'm like, dude, we were talking about wide receiver core, and now you're trying to bring in like Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, and your offensive line to debunk my Miami Dolphins take about how they have a better wide receiver core. So I don't know. I think he was just like half messing around, but also half like just looking to argue. But hey, I love it. I love it. We always encourage people to comment, and I love talking ball. So, buddy, I appreciate you commenting. And hey, your Vikings looked good. They shit down Collins Giants' throats. So I loved it, man.
Yeah, they absolutely did. And he's like, we were talking about the other teams in division, how they're better. He's like, how can you say they're better? And he mentioned like every position except for quarterback. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's probably why. But you know, I digress. But yeah, the Buccaneers fans really don't like us on YouTube because we weren't super high on them this year. But I do think they battled Detroit in this one. I think Baker, I think he doesn't play as well as last week, but I do think he still has a decent day through the air. And I think it could be a backdoor recovery here. But I don't know, 7.5's a lot of points to give, given how Tampa Bay looked last week, and they are a veteran team. So I'm going to go with Tampa Bay covering. They don't get the job done, though. They don't win outright. Detroit's just too talented. All right, Reagan. The Colts, 3-point favorites on the road at Green Bay. The over-under 40.5. The Packers, obviously led by Malik Willis this week. Damn, I really, really thought about putting Josh Jacobs in the touchdown score parlay this week.
Glad you didn't.
Given how Joe Mixon destroyed this Colts front last week, and Green Bay is going to have to rely on him. But also, it's going to get to the point where Indianapolis is definitely going to stack the hell out of the box here and try to make Willis beat him with his arm. And I just don't think Willis can do that. But Reagan, maybe you think Malik Willis has some magic this week?
Nope, I don't. I'm going with the Colts here. It seems like a trap game, but I'm taking him in.
Screams trap game, bro. 3 points with Malik Willis.
I don't give a fuck. I'm taking the Colts and Survivor in one of my entries this week. I mean, I'd rather burn them now in a matchup where I think they can get it done. It's my whole point of it is Malik Willis is not a good NFL quarterback. He proved that with the Titans. I don't care how good the weapons are. I think the offense is going to struggle. I mean, I'm kind of tempering expectations. I mean, you have to start Josh Jacobs. You took him with the capital, but with Watson and Reed, you can start him. I mean, they're flex options to me this week, low end, but just because they are such talented and all they need is like one touch and they can take you to the house. But I just would temper all expectations. And with the Colts, I expect Jonathan Taylor to have a good game here. I mean, we saw what Saquon just did. So Richardson obviously is a must start. He proved that last week. And you would hope Pittman can have a nice bounce back week this week. But it'll be tough if Jair shadows him. But still, you got to play him. You drafted him in the 3rd, 4th round. You have to play him.
Yeah, I'm also going with Indianapolis here. It does scream trap game. Big thing for me for Green Bay is even if they lose this game, I want to see their defense stop the run better. They have so many first-round picks over there. And, yeah, Jair got beat by A.J. Brown last week, but he's still a legitimate corner, so him having a good bounce-back day would be big for Green Bay, even if they don't win this game. Just show signs of improvement on the defensive end after last year when they shit the bed for a good stretch, and it was just really pathetic. You fired the DC, so let's see some improvement on that side of the ball, even if they don't get it done. But, yeah, I just think the Colts have too much firepower on offense right now for Malik Willis to keep up. Even on the road in Green Bay, it's not December yet, so that helps Indianapolis in this one. I do think they get it done. All right, your Jets, 3.5-point favorites. I was actually surprised how low this line was at the Tennessee Titans, over under 40.5. I think this line should be more like 5 points, given the caliber of the Jets, and given that Will Levis had 3 interceptions last week in Chicago. So now he's got a Jets defense with Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, Michael Carter, and them boys back there. I see Levis throwing a couple more picks. I know you're taking your Jets here.
Yeah, no, I think I'm taking them with one of my survivor picks as well. I think this is a massive bounce back game for the Jets here. I think the defense is going to be playing fired up. I wouldn't be shocked if the Titans don't even put up 10 points this week. I think it will hit the under. I don't think our offense is going to get to the point yet that we want it to be. I think Rodgers still has some rust to wear off, but I think it'll end up being like a 20-6, maybe 21-13 if they get a garbage time touchdown, which, that kind of defeats me saying they won't get double digits. But then again, if it's garbage time and all the backups are in, then it's a little different. But I think the Jets get it done. I think they cover here. Should win by double digits, and if they don't, it's because of a backdoor cover.
Yeah, Jets certainly win this one in my eyes. I think this is an easy cover. I think Breece Hall controls the game. As I mentioned earlier, I think he goes for 150 total yards. I think he scores twice. And Aaron Rodgers, although he won't look like the MVP form that we've seen, he's going to look better. That timing's going to get better. And it's a good game to get under his feet before they start getting some more big boy matchups coming up. But yeah, Jets roll in this one. I don't believe in Will Levis in the slightest. And the way they lost that game last week, I think is really deflating. So it'll be tough for them to bounce back against a team of the Jets caliber. Niners -6, fresh off that big win over the Jets at the Minnesota Vikings, fresh off that ass beating of my New York Football Giants. The over under 46.5. Are you buying into Sammy D?
I am buying in, but not this week. I do think the team is better than I expected, but I just think the 49ers are just too good right now, and it clearly doesn't matter if they don't have McCaffrey because Jordan Mason is obviously a great running back still, or Kyle Shanahan's system is great. I don't know, but I think Minnesota is going to, struggle, especially offensively. The 49ers are a big step up on defense from the Giants, so I don't think Sam Darnold's going to come out 14 for 14 this week. So I think the 49ers blow them out here. I think it's close to start, and then the 49ers pull away in the second half and get it done here by double digits.
Yeah, I don't give a shit that McCaffrey's not playing in this game. San Francisco should still roll. The Vikings do have talent around the field, but I don't know. I mean, they went against Daniel Jones last week. I think Brock Purdy is going to do much better against that Minnesota defense. I think that Minnesota defense, even though Brian Flores is that dude and he kind of turned it around a bit, I don't think they're as good as the Giants made him look. I do think offensively, Mason, he ran hard last week, really hard against a really good Jets defense. And you talked about how your run defense sucks. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe Shanahan's scheme is just really that damn good. And the Niners fixed their offensive line a little bit, and those guys are starting to gel, and they just played really good football together. And Jordan Mason was playing like, hey, I've been waiting for this opportunity, and I'm going to ball my fucking ass off. And he did. And I do think he's going to do it again this week. Shanahan also, Darnold was in that building for a year, so he understands how Sam plays, his strengths and weaknesses. I think that's going to help in this one as well. San Francisco rolls. They win by 17 in this game.
Wow. All right.
The Seattle Seahawks, -3.5. They beat the Broncos last week at the New England Patriots, the real surprising team of week 1. Now they're dogs at home against the Seahawks team. The over-under 37.5, quite low, which you would expect here. Should be a defensive battle. A lot of the run game getting going. Ramondre with 25 carries last week. That's the recipe New England wants. I don't know if it's going to work this week, though, against Seattle. Reagan, what are your thoughts?
I actually do think the Patriots win here outright. I really do not believe in Seattle this year. They did not look good against the Broncos at all. They woke up in the second half, but that's not a good Denver team, and they let them hang around all game. So the Patriots have a much better defense, so I expect this to be very low scoring, and I honestly think Brissett's going to be able to move the ball better than Bo Nix did. So I think the Patriots actually win this game 14-6. It's going to be low scoring. Might even go into halftime 3-0 or 3-3, 6-3. But I'm totally taking the under here. I think Ramondre is going to get a ton of touches again, so he's definitely startable in fantasy this week. This is a good game script for them where they're not going to get down and be trailing. And Kenneth Walker might not even play this week. I know he's got that injury tag. So if Charbonnet's on waivers, scoop him up now. You may have an RB2 next week that's going to be getting a lot of touches.
I have to disagree with you, my friend. I think the Seahawks get it done. I agree with you with the game script. It's going to be a run the ball. It's going to be protect it. It's going to be play good defense. Even with the Seahawks being on the road at New England, I think they have a better defense. I think they have more talent out wide. They have more guys that can go get the job done on third down, which I think this game comes down to who can convert on third downs. And although I'm not a big Geno Smith believer, I'm also not a big Jacoby Brissett believer. And I believe in Geno more than Jacoby to make those throws. I believe in DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and hopefully JSN, they can get him more involved. I'm sick of this shit of him getting 2 to 3 catches a game. Love to see him get more involved. But one thing to look out for is Christian Gonzalez, if he's going to shadow DK Metcalf. You know, DK had a tough draw last week against Pat Surtain, and Pat Surtain won that battle. Well, Christian Gonzalez is starting to get that treatment for New England where he's going to start shadowing that number one guy. This is a really tough physical guy in DK Metcalf, 6'4", just a total freak. Really curious to see if they do put Gonzalez on him, and if so, how well he does. And it could be the determining factor in this game for me. But
yeah,
I do think Seattle gets it done.
I mean, he looked great last week.
Oh, yeah. He looks great. He looks absolutely legit. And a bunch of Patriots fans are like, well, at least Bill Belichick left us with a great draft class before he left, because that draft class does look really good, headlined by Christian Gonzalez.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we really didn't get to see his – I mean, we saw flashes of his potential before he got injured last year, so hopefully he can stay healthy this year and continue to improve.
Absolutely. The Chargers, 6-point favorites on the road at Carolina. The over-under 39.5. Reagan, you already told us you're taking the Panthers outright. Would you like to explain more why you believe in Bryce Young and this Panthers team?
Look, they just got down. Like, this team is not built to play from behind. They have a lot of good, or not good. Maybe that wasn't the best choice of words, but they got some running backs there in Sanders, Hubbard, and eventually Brooks. This is a team that wants to run. They don't want Bryce Young throwing the ball 30, 40 times trailing from behind. Obviously, losing Derek Brown hurts, but I think the Chargers defense is very susceptible to the run. So I think the game script, if they are able to establish the run early, will play in the favor of this team. And then Bryce Young will then be able to run some play action, get some stuff going where the defense has to, they can't be stacking the box and making them beat them. So I think it's going to open up a lot here. I think the defense will play better this week. And I think it's a huge bounce back week for them. And I think everybody and their mother is going to be betting on the Chargers -6.5 after how bad the Panthers played last week.
Yeah, I am not one of those people that's taking the Chargers 6.5. I do think they win, but Carolina covers. Carolina allowed 180 yards rushing last week. That is music to Jim Harbaugh's ears. And I was really tempted to put one of these backs in my parlay. Problem is, it's tough after how J.K. Dobbins looked last week. It's like, all right, well, they're going to give him all the touches. Well, maybe not, because Gus Edwards was the guy with Greg Roman last year, and Gus Edwards is still the goal line guy. But then it's also like, I don't want to go with Gus Edwards because Dobbins looked so good last week, and he's so pumped up, and he brings that energy right now where maybe you got to roll with Dobbins. It's just really dicey to try to pick one or the other. Regardless, the Chargers are going to run the ball down Carolina's throat in this week, especially with Derek Brown being out for the season. So
yeah, very unfortunate.
I just think the game script screams the clock bleeding most of the game. Justin Herbert is the elite quarterback in this matchup. He'll make the throws. The Chargers will win on the road. But 6 points, I think the Panthers somehow battle in this one and keep it close. I just think it's a trap game. I think that's 6. Everyone, especially after how the Chargers looked last week against the Raiders and with Jim Harbaugh, and I just think a lot of people are going to be on it. I think it's just a trap. I do think the Chargers win, but I think it's a close game. I think they win by a field goal.
Wow, fair enough.
Cleveland at Jacksonville. The Jags, a 3-point favorite at home. The over-under 41.5. Are you taking Deshaun Watson, Reagan? Please tell me you're not taking Deshaun Watson.
No, I am. Well, I'm taking the Browns, not taking Deshaun Watson. I'm putting some faith in the Browns defense here. Let's be honest. Yeah, the Cowboys put up over 30 points last week, but I'm not blaming the Browns for that. I mean, the offense could not move the ball. They turned it over a bunch, especially in that second half, and it felt like Brandon Aubrey was just the Cowboys were starting on the 50-yard line every drive. You know, Dak didn't go for a crazy amount of yards, so I think the defense is going to be pissed off. They're going to limit the Jacksonville here. It's going to be low scoring. And I think that they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit better, the Browns, and they're going to have a better game plan. I mean, you got to get Amari Cooper and Judy more involved, but you also, I mean, this is a team that wants to run the ball. Obviously, you don't have Nick Chubb, but I think Jerome Ford could have a big game here. I really do.
Yeah, I got to disagree with you. I'm going with the Jaguars. The Browns were 3-6. The Browns were 3-6 in the road last season, and I just really have a hard time putting my faith in Deshaun Watson. He's just a bad quarterback now. It doesn't really make sense, but he's terrible. And I'm not super high on Jacksonville yet. I think they have the pieces to be a really good team. Just Trevor Lawrence hasn't been that generational guy. And even last week, his completion percentage was not good. He did make some wow throws, but we need more consistency out of Trevor. This is going to be a tough game for him to do it against his Cleveland secondary. But if he does do it, it's a huge, huge boost for this Jacksonville team going forward for the rest of the season. And I just believe in Trevor Lawrence more so than Deshaun Watson. I believe in the Jaguars at home. This was a really tough one for me, but I have to go with the Jags. And the 3-point spread is just like right on a field goal. I think it might be I think it's going to be a push. If you put a gun to my head, I'd say Jacksonville by 3. But yeah, I just can't take Deshaun Watson, especially on the road, no matter how good that Browns roster looks on paper and how good that defense is.
Fair. Hey, fair.
Las Vegas at Baltimore. Ravens a 9-point favorite at home. Over under 41.5. The Ravens are the biggest favorite on the slate. Probably will be a very popular survivor pick this week.
Yeah, I'm taking them in one line.
Are the Raiders a threat here?
No, I think the Ravens are going to roll here. I mean, it just seems like a classic Ravens game where they go out and win like 30-6 or 35-6. This is their get right game. They're pissed off that they just lost on basically the last play of the game. I mean, they were battling all game with the Chiefs, so I think they get it done here. They beat a Raiders team that's not going to have a great year. I mean, I think you still got to start like the Raiders' offensive weapons, like the running backs. I don't know. I mean, I'm benching Zamir White. I'm a little nervous there, but like Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, I mean, they're going to get a lot of garbage time work here. And on the Ravens side, I mean, I think it's going to be a huge Derrick Henry game. Like I already highlighted, I mean, we saw what the Chargers just did to the Raiders defense. They were able to run all over them. But it'll be interesting because the Ravens offensive line is not what it used to be. And Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby are great players. Even though they kind of got their teeth kicked in against the Chargers, the line's not as good as LA's. So it'll be interesting. But I just think ultimately the Ravens are just way better than the Raiders, and their defense is way better than the Raiders offense. So it's just going to be a tough game on the road for Gardner Minshew and the boys.
Absolutely agree. This is a classic, what we saw all of last year with Baltimore, a ton of blowouts. And when you look at Lamar's stat line from last season and you're like, oh, that was the MVP. When you just look at it through that lens, it doesn't look that great because they blew out so many teams and he didn't have to play a lot down the stretch and they were kind of just running the ball out. I think it's going to be a similar type of game here. They're going to kick the shit out of the Raiders. I think Minshew is really going to struggle against this Baltimore secondary. I think this Baltimore pass rush is going to be able to get home, and the game script will be better for Derrick Henry in this one compared to last week. They won't be playing from behind. I do agree with you, though, where I think Henry goes for 100 and scores, but it may not be the most efficient 100. He might get over 20 carries here, even though they said he's not going to be a 30-touch guy. I think 20 is very much in play here. And the Chargers just gushed him. Gus Edwards just gushed him. So give me Derrick Henry do the same thing here. Baltimore had 452 yards against Kansas City last week.
What did you just say? Gushed him?
Yeah, he gushed him.
I've never heard that term. Gushed him?
Gushed him. Gashed him?
Gashed him?
Both.
Gashed him?
They did both.
Gushed him? I don't even know. What the fuck does that mean? Gushed him?
I don't know. I made it up.
Is that a word?
I made it up.
I'm not like trying to be the grammar player. I've just never heard it. The definition: flow out in a rapid and plentiful stream, often suddenly. So
yeah, that's
a little sus, bro.
That's what J.K. Dobbins did to that defensive line last week.
Speak right with effusiveness or exaggerated enthusiasm in a sentence. William watched the murky liquid gushing out. A nice old lady reporter who covers the art openings and gushes about everything. So yeah, I guess
It plays.
Whatever. We've never claimed to be smart guys on this podcast.
It plays. It works. All right, the Rams at the Cardinals. The Cardinals a 1-point favorite here. I gotta think this is due to the injuries that the Rams have sustained on that offensive line and to Puka Nacua. The over/under 48.5. Reagan, did the Rams get it done with all those injuries?
Yeah, I think the Cardinals gush them here. No, I do got the Cardinals winning here. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring affair. This may end up being the high-scoring game of the week. I mean, both defenses not in love with either of them. I mean, the Cardinals just gave up 30 to the Bills. The Rams gave up 26, 20 in regular time, but I think this week it's just going to be super high-scoring. I think this is going to be a shootout. This is start all options in this matchup. I mean, I think even like Demarcus Robinson or Tyler Johnson, the guys that are going to be kind of filling in for Puka, are flexible in deeper leagues, especially if you're maybe missing Puka and you need to throw someone in the flex. Both guys are options there, especially with how bad the Cardinals defense is. But I think ultimately the Cardinals get it done at home in a very high-scoring affair where we honestly wouldn't be shocked if both teams put up over 30 points this week.
Yeah, Reagan, I have to disagree with you yet again, my friends. Sorry to do so. But I do think the Rams, despite all the injuries, still get the win. I think Sean McVay is just that good at scheming his guys to be successful. And they put up 20 against Detroit, had a great chance to win that game. And, they had those injuries. Puka didn't play a lot of the game. The offensive line was already beat up, and they lost guys early on. So the way that Stafford was able to move the ball still, despite all of that, against that Detroit front and that Detroit team, gives me optimism that they can do so against Arizona. This is the most confident pick I have for the week, but something I am very confident in is that Cooper Kupp should feast against this Arizona secondary, especially after having 21 targets last week. Another thing I'm very confident in, the last leg of Big Tongue's touchdown score parlay will be Kyren Williams. He's going to score here. Ooh. Despite the offensive line injuries. This Arizona front is not good, and that kind of made me not as worried about the offensive line because they were going against Detroit last week with Aiden Hutchinson and DJ Reader and some legitimate players there. Arizona really has nothing to write home about. So I think Kyren Williams, he scored last week against Detroit. He also punches one in against Arizona in this one, and that completes the parlay. Kyren Williams, Breece Hall, Derrick Henry, and Malik Neighbors for week 2.
All right.
Pittsburgh, 2.5-point favorites at Denver. The over-under 36.5, very low. I was surprised with this total, but I guess it makes sense because Justin Fields is the quarterback for Pittsburgh. But this was the easiest game of the week for me to pick, Reagan. I'm rolling with Pittsburgh here. How are you going to take Bo Nix after how he looked against Seattle? I get he was on the road, but I think this Pittsburgh defense is certainly better than Seattle's, and they held Atlanta to 10 last week in Atlanta. And no, I know Kirk Cousins was rusty, but there's a lot more talent at Atlanta offense than Pittsburgh here. And it does, one more thing, it does kind of suck that we don't get to see a Russell Wilson revenge game here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's not officially ruled out yet, but it sounds like
they said they're going to monitor him throughout the week, but Fields is slated to start. Even if, because Russ wanted to play last week, but they was like, no, we're going to hold you out. But Russ is going to want to push to play, but it seems like they're still going to roll with Fields after winning last week.
If Fields is to play, I am starting him. I lost Jordan Love in a league, and I picked up Justin Fields. So his rushing upside is huge, and I think Denver's defense is not good at all. Their best half was that first half, and then the second half, Seattle just woke up and destroyed them. They couldn't stop them. So I expect a big game there. I don't think Denver is going to even crack 10 points this week. I think the offense is going to struggle. Bo Nix is not going to be able to win this game with the dump-offs he had last week. You might be able to move the ball against a bad Seattle team, but against an amazing Steelers defense, that shit's not going to fly. So I think it's going to be 20-24 to maybe 7. Maybe they'll score a touchdown. They may only get a field goal. I wouldn't even be surprised if they put up 0. I really wouldn't be shocked if it's the end of the game and they didn't put up a point.
Yeah, and the thing here that really has me confident in Pittsburgh to get this done is that Pat Surtain is going to be shadowing George Pickens. So, I'm sorry. That's the one thing I want to stay away from with the Steelers is George Pickens. I think it's Najee Harris and Justin Fields on the ground game that get it done, but stay away from George Pickens. That's the only thing I'm confident in with Denver. I think Surtain is going to lock down Pickens, and I would take the under on his yards. But that also, there's really not a lot of other weapons that Pittsburgh has right now. So I think Najee Harris is going to get maybe close to 30 carries in this game, and Justin Fields runs for close to 10 times. And it's going to have to be on the ground for Pittsburgh, but their defense is going to suffocate Denver. I wouldn't be surprised if the defense scores a touchdown in this one. But yeah, I don't have confidence in the Denver offense.
Yeah, I don't know how you
really
could.
don't. I really don't.
I don't know how you could. The way Steelers played last week and the way Denver's offense looked last week. I mean, they had 2 safeties, it wasn't like – and the defense just really stepped up in that first half and kept them in that game.
Yeah, absolutely. Cincinnati at Kansas City. The Chiefs a 5-point favorite. Over under 47.5. Arguably the top game on the slate this week. Maybe you could argue Buffalo, Miami, but this is a huge, huge game. And I feel like the whole world is going to be on Kansas City spread here after last week, Reagan.
Yeah, I'm taking Cincinnati to actually cover and win here. I mean, I love to cover. That's a lot of points to give a good team. I don't care. You know what? They usually start out slow in week 1. They've just struggled the past couple of years, but I don't care. If you're going to give me that kind of points, and I think, like you said, the world's going to be on them, Kansas City. But I think Joe Burrow is going to have a bounce back game here, especially if Higgins plays. I mean, if Higgins doesn't play, I think that line might balloon up to 7, which I love even more. I'll take as many points as I can get for the Bengals. But I really just do think it's going to be a big bounce back game for the Bengals offense. I like Chase Brown a lot in this game because while they might not be able to run the ball against him, we saw what Justice Hill was able to do as the receiving back for the Ravens. He had a pretty good week. So Chase Brown's a sneaky flex play for me this week as well. And then on the Chiefs side of things, like Kelsey, I expect him to have a better week. Mahomes, hopefully his numbers are better for fantasy. Worthy, I think, will be more involved. Even though he had the 2 touchdowns, he only had 3 touches all game. So you'd like to see the touches go up. And if Marquise Brown plays, I mean, this is kind of one of those ones that you want to start all the guys that expect this to be a shootout.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kansas City to win, but Cincinnati to cover. I do think Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase will come out pissed off, and I think they'll have a better game plan to get Chase more involved and try to make this offense more explosive. And if they can't get the same page early, I think Kansas City will roll in this game. But I do think they get on the same page. I think Cincinnati's able to battle here. I think it's a really close game. I think they're actually up in the second half, but Mahomes does Mahomes things in the fourth quarter, and the Chiefs have the ball at the end of the game, and they get a field goal to win. But I agree with you. 5 points is a lot to give this Bengals team, even after they looked terrible last week against New England. It's a new week. These 2 teams have a lot of history the last couple years, particularly in the playoffs. So I think Joe Burrow, given how he's looked against Kansas City historically, although it's in the beginning of the season, so a little bit of worrisome there. But I do think the Bengals have enough to cover in this one. But on the road at Kansas City to get a win here, I just don't think they get it done.
Fair. And I'm looking forward to it. And I also kind of hate how they have 10 1 o'clock games and then 3 4 o'clock games. Like I just don't understand.
It's the dumbest thing ever. Why can't you give us even one more game at 4 and it's okay? Give us 2 more games at 4. It's like when they have the Chiefs and Bengals, it's like they're trying to force everyone to go watch that game instead of Pittsburgh, Denver, and the Rams, Cardinals. Like, a lot of people just be like, I'm going to turn that game on instead of watching Red Zone, which maybe is what they're trying to push for. But as fans, we don't want to have that many games on at the same time at 1. We like to have some more games to watch at 4. It's stupid. I don't know. It just makes no sense to me.
And don't worry, you said that's the dumbest thing ever. Don't worry. Next week we have 2 Monday Night Football games, and one starts at 7:30 and the other one at 8:15. So if we're talking about dumb things, there's another dumb thing we get to look forward to for
You're
next
right.
week.
That is actually even dumber. I can't believe it's even dumber, dude.
Yeah.
Why?
I love 2 Monday Night Football games. I'd love it if we had a 7 and a 10. My ass would stay up till 1 in the morning watching it. I don't care. We're young. We can wake up early, drink a cup of coffee, and be ready to roll.
All right, Reagan. Sunday Night Football. The Bears at the Texans. Houston, a 6-point favorite. The over-under, 45.5. I already said it. I already explained it. The Bears are going to win this game. Big believer in this defense. CJ Stroud is going to struggle. Caleb Williams has a great game. Throws for 2 touchdowns, 250 yards. And the Bears win on the road. And people start talking about the Bears. Oh, so that's what it could really look like with Caleb Williams. We know the defense is good, but when the offense gets clicking with those weapons, all right, now the Bears have something to go with here.
Yeah, I am going with the Bears to cover, but I think the Texans are going to get the win here. I I just think that's a lot of points. Like you highlighted earlier, the Bears defense looked great last week. And obviously, like Stroud's got all the weapons, very talented, but I think the Bears defense is good enough to keep him in it. I expect Williams to have a better game this week. I can't say a bounce back game because it's only his second game, so we don't really know what a bounce back game looks like for him yet, but I expect him to improve off of last week. I think the passing yards will be closer to the 200-yard mark, and I think he'll throw for his first passing touchdown. So, and I think this will be a good Sunday night game with two of the best future quarterbacks we're going to see in this league.
There we go. Can't wait for that one. And finally, to wrap us up, only one Monday Night Football game this week, thank God. The Falcons are at the Eagles. Eagles 6.5-point favorites off that big win against Green Bay. The over-under 47.5. Are you putting your faith in Kirk Chains to knock the rust off for week 2 against Philly? Or does Philly just have too much firepower?
I just think Philly has too much firepower here. I think Philly gets it done. I think they stomp them out. I think it's a double-digit win. And don't forget, Kirk sucks in primetime. Like, I don't think he's just going to lose that where he's a good primetime quarterback.
That's true.
Like,
that is true.
Primetime Kirk Cousins is historically terrible. So I'm going to go on the side of history here. Philly, the bank's going to be, or not the bank, the Link's going to be rocking. Saquon, I think, is going to have another big game, continue on with what he did last week. Yeah, and I think Hurts will have a big game. I just think this game's going to be all Philly here. And I think Atlanta's offense is going to struggle again in this game. I really do. I think there's better days ahead for Atlanta. I think they're going to wake up kind of week 3, week 4, but they're just a lot of new pieces, new faces, and they really just got to kind of figure out their identity.
Hate to say it. I agree. I think the Eagles win this one pretty handily. I mean, I like that Atlanta's defense didn't allow a touchdown to Pittsburgh last week, but, so on one hand, you could think they did improve on that end, but on the other hand, you'd be like, okay, it was Justin Fields in his first start in Pittsburgh, so maybe you don't put too much merit into that. But this Eagles team was an entirely different beast, and Kirk Cousins just looked so immobile, and the offense was just 3-step drop from the shotgun all day. I don't think that's going to work against Philadelphia, even though they still have question marks in the secondary right now. But if Atlanta's going to win this game and stay in it, I think Bijan has to go nuclear in both the run and the passing game here. Jacobs had a pretty solid day last week against Philadelphia, so Bijan's going to have to do even more to keep him in this game. And one thing to note, Reagan, your boy Bryce Huff is 3rd or 4th in the pass rushing rotation right now, which is kind of weird in Philadelphia. But we all know the Eagles have, even though their pass rush wasn't as good last year as it was in 2022, they do still have some dudes up there that I know Atlanta has a good offensive line, but if Kirk is actually this immobile coming off that Achilles, it could be a problem for Atlanta to win this game. And the Eagles just have so much firepower on offense that Atlanta's going to need to score at least 24, 25 points to win this game, I think. So if Bryce Huff's the 3rd or 4th guy coming off the edge for Philadelphia, 1, that's not good for him, but 2, it's also not good for Kirk Cousins because that means they believe in those other guys even more, and Philadelphia is going to need to get home on Kirk Cousins.
Hey, I mean, with the whole Bryce Huff thing, he's still doing more than Hassan Reddick, so. But yeah, no, that is kind of weird.
A good
with
point.
How much money they gave him in the offseason that they're kind of falling in back in the rotation because he was a good guy for us last year. He had a great season with a lot of very high pressure rate, so very interesting. But it's still early. A lot will change.
Yeah, I bring that up and watch Bryce Huff have 2 sacks on Monday night. We're like, oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There it is.
But I think that wraps us up, huh?
That wraps us up, brother. Right at the hour mark almost. That's a good solid pod,
dude.
baby.
And then it'll be interesting. One of us is going to be doing those cringy-ass TikTok dances. We're going to be doing 3 of them, so you'll know by Thursday night. We may even put one out this weekend. Get the ball rolling. You get to see Colin dance monkey. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I ain't doing no dancing, brother. You'll be doing a dance video in New York City Friday night. How about that?
Something like that. But yeah, stay tuned for the wheel spins, the Drox locks, the big tongue touchdown parlay. I mean, as of now, that's his lay. So we'll be putting a little video out for that. So just keep checking socials and let's make some more money this week. I can't wait for the first wheel spin to cash tomorrow. It's about time, but trust the process. All you out there that are like, well, it hasn't hit yet. Hey, it went up 100 units last year. It started out down 8 or 9 units, and then we just came in guns a-blazing. So don't doubt. Just trust.
Don't doubt. Trust the wheel. Trust the process, baby. We'll be all right.
All right. Good.